Did you know there are 4 different states of consciousness? And in this video, I'm going to discuss these states of consciousness that you go through as you begin to awaken from the illusion of the matrix. So reality is currently operating from an illusion, an inverted matrix that keeps us trapped and stuck and surviving instead of thriving. And so we are unconsciously programmed to keep us asleep in these slumbers, in these low vibrational consciousness. It's only when we start to awaken that we begin to question this reality, this illusion that we are operating from. And so in this video, I want to discuss these stages that we go through that are linked to the spiritual awakening process, the alchemy process that we go through and will naturally raise our vibration. So the 2 first stages come under unconscious behavior, unconscious asleep. And when we are completely unconscious, we are actually asleep, like you've been knocked unconscious, or you're asleep in the dream world. Your consciousness has left your body. Your autonomous body is not functioning. You are completely asleep. And that is the first stage of unconsciousness. And so this second stage is also being unconscious. This is us operating in this 3D reality matrix of the illusion, the programmed self. This is us going to that 9-to-5 job, being in the system and being on autopilot and playing out our same everyday functions and behavior patterns that are on autopilot, operating from our wounds and operating from our unconscious behavior patterns. It's only when we begin to question and self-analyze ourselves and analyze how we fit in the world that our consciousness begins to expand. And we shift from this unconscious automatic robot slave self to one of more conscious awareness. And when this begins to happen, we start to analyze how we are fitting into the world, analyze the reality, and we begin to awaken. This is when the unconscious starts to become conscious. This is when we become conscious of the world around us, how it's operating. And what happens at this stage is then, as our consciousness begins to expand, our vibration will naturally rise, because our natural vibration, our natural way of being is divine, unconditional love. And so we begin to start to awaken to our true self. And this is where we go from unknowing, pure ignorance about the world, about ourselves, thinking we know everything, thinking we know this and that, pure ignorance, to actual deep knowing about ourselves, deep truths about the self and the world. And so when we begin to do all of this self-analytical work and reflective and introspective work, our consciousness begins to change into a more high vibrational state. And this is where we are no longer asleep. We are now awake. We are divinely awake. This is divine consciousness. And when we are awake, we can no longer go back to sleep. So this means we begin to awaken from that programming, that illusion that we thought we were. Our minds, our thoughts were attached to who we thought we were and what we thought the world was, which is an illusion of the mind. And when we start to let go of that illusion and shift our self-concept, shift our identity, because we go through that rebirth, that alchemy process of the death and the rebirth of the true embodiment of the divine self. We no longer are attached to the old self, the unconscious self. And so now you may feel more blissed out, you feel more high vibe at this stage. So now everything becomes more online, you become more activated in your divine self. And so this means you are now becoming the spiritual self. So as we begin to work our way through this conscious expansion that we go through, we begin to then hit the ultimate state of consciousness, which is the cosmic self, which is one with the universe. There have only been so many people that have reached this ultimate destination, enlightenment, these ascended masters that have been able to attain this. And this is where the consciousness is all observing. It's that you become that true embodiment of the spiritual cosmic self, and you're no longer attached to the ego or allowing your ego to run the show. Essentially, we will allow the ego to be there, it plays out, it has its say, but we do not, the true divine master does not allow the ego to take control. It takes the back seat, essentially. This is where we've let go of that old self and we are now in a new state of consciousness, and there's no going back to sleep at all from this state. And now you've attained this ultimate state of consciousness. You've transcended the self, the mind, the body. And as we go through these stages, when we are in that awakening process, we have awakened to the truth of the matrix. We no longer can identify with the old self. We are no longer in alignment with that old unconscious state, that unconscious behavior. So we lose who we were. So there's this death that we have to go through, this letting go process, and then we can embody this divine self that is now beginning to be rebirthed, because we will no longer identify with the illusion of the old world, which is an identification with the mind. And so when we drop the illusion and stop identifying with the thought and the mind, we begin to even further our spiritual growth and practice in these higher states of consciousness. And if you want to take this further, where I talk about discovering the true divine self, connecting back to yourself, check out this video next, where I dive into how you can connect back to your divine self. With that being said, I'll see you on the next video. Much love.